she said, do you remember when we gave them their first bath? She said the water turned black. And that's how long they hadn't had a bath for. And I was like, wow. It's just like, so it's been in me from a very young age to help.
I think so, Kate. How are you?
Good. I'm great.
I'm great. I'm so happy that you're back. And
yes.
We were able to line up a little bit better. I had the admission last time when you came. We got our dates mixed up. And so you came the Wednesday a week early. At least I thought a week early. And so when you came originally, I'm like, wait, who is this person?
Tell me about yourself. You're like, okay, I know who you are.
It took 10 minutes for me to put it together. And then I was all screwed up in the first interview because like I hadn't worked out. Okay, listen.
I didn't know. Yeah, I was good.
I fake it till
I'm like, I work with children. We roll with the punches, whatever comes our way.
You really do. The first time you came, you had your 5-year-old. Now you have another one. Like
There's
roll.
Always a kid.
Dude, you got to roll with the punches though. Like my dad adopted 7 and after me. And he really is that way. Like he is just like, hey, I'll come over. I got to bring 5 kids. But like, I'm coming over. And you're like, wait, what?
Yes. You just roll with it. You're like, you have a plan. It might not always come out that way, but you just roll with it, whatever it is. But
yeah.
I roll with a lot of children too. So your dad and I, we have the same life probably.
Yeah, it's a good time. So your story about how you became a foster parent and then started adopting kids was one that just gave me great pause. You know, like hearing it and editing even through the episode and hearing the conversation again. It's profound in my opinion. I mean, you're somebody who's genuinely. Did you ever see that movie, The Constant Gardener?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I've never even heard of it.
It was like.
No.
It's an older movie from like the early 2000s, but it's this guy in Africa.
Okay.
Whose wife is like very like an activist and advocating for I can't exactly like poverty, politics, whatever it is, and she ends up getting killed, right? And it's this guy's kind of journey of like figuring out what she was up to because she was shielding him from a lot of it. Figuring out what she was up to. And at the beginning of the movie, she's always like, oh, let's pick up the kid and help him. He's like, honey, we're on the way to dinner. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, what does it matter? He's like, it matters to that kid. Like, we have that kid. And that was her sentiment. She passes away. And then at the end of the movie, after he's gone through this whole journey and he finally arrives at the point where he gets it. He's like, this is why this mattered so much and mattered so much in your life. And he's like escaping from these bandits that are coming into this village on this plane. And he's like, we got to pick up this kid, that kid. And they're like, we have no more room. And he's like, one kid. Can we help this one kid? Right. And, anyway, he passes away at the end. But it was one of those things where it's like, wow, you started with one kid. You're like, I need to help one kid. And that's valuable. And it's not like I'm going to save the world. I'm going to save one person or just help one person.
Well, there's a saying, and I think it says, you may not be able to change the world, but you can change someone's world. And so that's what, like, your focus is not, eventually it might, expand because you impact someone's life and they impact someone else's life and all that stuff. But yeah, your focus is like right here, right in front of you. How can I help this one right now?
Right.
And that's the goal.
And then you have these trickles. Sayings. You may not I don't even know how to address like the things you say. It's just like change one person. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, you were the founder of Foster and Heart.
Yeah.
And your Foster and Heart has, last we spoke, you had 2 houses. And
we still currently have 2 houses.
And these houses are not just serving foster youth, but also attempting to keep larger sibling groups together. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I started with the mission in mind to, experience it firsthand. When I signed up to foster, I signed up to foster 1.
Right.
And she, I went to pick her up and there's all her siblings. They all separated in different homes. And it took 9 months to get them all under my roof in one home back together. And that was the first night that they all 5 slept through the night. There was no trauma. There was no nightmares. There was nothing. They were all finally back together. And I just realized like, this is very, very, this should be a priority is keeping siblings together. But you're reliant on other people to open their doors and their home. And so I was like, well, why don't I just start a home where we can take them initially, have a safe place, basically like a sanctuary house where we can meet all their needs, keep them together till the department finds the right home. And then just with the demand of large sibling groups coming in and everything going on just in our, area, we opened a second home. And so we've been able to meet the needs. For quite a few sibling groups, I should have those statistics.
You're
we just had a gala.
You're a terrible person.
No, we just had a gala, which was amazing. And I have incredible, amazing people on my team that are so gifted and so talented that keep us running. But she was sharing like the numbers and the statistics. And it's really, really cool to see that these kids wouldn't have stayed together, these siblings, if it wasn't for Foster and Heart.
God, that's beautiful. That's just...
Yeah. And it's an honor. Like, it's like, people have like recognized us and given us awards. And I'm like, thank you for that. But I just feel such an honor every time I get to impact the life of that individual child, that sibling group, and just see them flourish. We get to see them come in one way, terrified, scared of the unknown, and walk out of our doors confident, with the wherever direction they're going, wherever their story is going. But it's pretty cool that we can impact them. And then I was telling someone this the other day, like my kids, I might have 6 kids in my home right now, but we have massive amount of children that are our family, because our family's all over the place, because every kid that comes in our home or in one of the foster homes becomes family.
Did you say you have 6 kids in your home?
Yeah.
Because you adopted the 5 siblings.
I have 5, and then I'm fostering another one, right? A teenager. Yeah.
Can I
She's
ask you
awesome.
something? What are your grocery bills like?
Oh, gosh.
Because I have 3 kids, and we go through 18 eggs a day.
Yes.
Like just scrambled eggs in the morning. And that's just 3 boys.
Yeah. Grocery bills are no joke right now. I made a goal this year to pack their lunch every day. And what is it? This is, 1 weekend. And I'm like, whoa, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Because you need a snack, and it's just a lot of money. So yeah, it's a big bill.
I saw a brief, I'm not proud of it, but I saw a social media video where this woman was packing lunch for like 15 kids. And it's like, some big family in Utah or something. And just making breakfast for the kids. Like she cracked 3 dozen eggs and, it's like in this giant thing. And it's like, and then she lines the entire counter with bread and it's like,
slap.
Yeah, slap.
Yeah.
Like the mustard and stuff. And it's like, oh, he doesn't want mustard.
The one kid, they all have their different things that they like. No mayo, please.
Yeah, right.
You messed up. You gave me mayo. I'm like, I'm sorry. I was doing it in a rush. But yeah. I don't have that many. 6 is doable. It's funny though. I was just telling someone this the other day when I hear someone says, oh, that person has 5 kids or 6 kids or whatever. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Then I'm like, wait, I do too. But when it's your day-to-day, everyday life, it's it's doable. And God gives you the grace for what he's called you to do. And so I just feel like he's given me the capacity to have that many children. If not more, I'd love more.
Oh my God.
Yes.
God bless you, woman. I remember, I do remember at one point when my dad had the 7 adopted kids, and then they were fostering another one, like an infant baby. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to my stepmom about it, and she's like, listen, man, we're already up in it.
Yeah, what's one more?
Like, what's one more? Like, if you go from 1 to 2, you're doubling. If you go from 7 to 8, you're like, I mean, does anybody know which, 5, where's 5? Like,
that's me too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You count them. But also what's really cool is I've got these little girls, they're 7 and 8 and 5, and they just love little. So if we ever take a little, it's like they just rise to the occasion and love it. So you also have that built-in help, Right. So they're like, Mom, can we foster a baby, please? I'm like, we'll see. We don't know, but we love bringing in more kids.
I recently had the good fortune of interviewing Alex Adams from as the director of Health and Welfare.
Incredible.
And he was on point.
Amazing.
Like sometimes I meet people where I'm like, oh, you're out of your depth.
Yeah.
Like this guy or this gal, it's like, you're like a monkey to them. And I kind of had that sensation with him. I was like, I better not screw this up. But he was just so on point and so laser focused and understood so clearly what, just his manner of expression with what he wants to focus on, what his priorities are, specifically foster youth and adoption, and streamlining it so we can get better resources and take care of Idaho's young people more effectively.
Come on.
Come on, right?
Yes, that should be our number one goal. And it is his. I mean, he's incredible.
Right. So and you'd mentioned that you'd been in some meetings with, like, what has your interaction been? Because obviously some people were like, well, is he really that way off air? It's like, I think he is.
Yeah. Well, I thought something that was really, really cool is he, came into his position. I don't know if you'd call it office. I'm not sure. But he came into his position. Directorship. There you go. And he reached out to every foster family, and just was like, hey, this is who I am, and gave opportunity for anybody to reach out to him and set up a meeting. So I did, kind of on behalf of being a general home is what we call it, like my home. When kids come to my personal home, it's a general foster home. And then also on behalf of Foster and Heart, I was like, I want him to know who we are. But I think it was pretty cool because just in the past, I'd never had the opportunity to meet with the director of health and welfare. So I thought it was really cool. And what an honor that he would take the time to just hear from us. And, you know, one of the girls on my team, Viera, went with me, and we just got to kind of lay out who we are, our heart. You know, we're really in this because we have a heart to help children, as does he. And just realizing we're all better together when we work together, and we all bring what our skill sets are to the table. And so that's what.
I don't think you can say that phrase. You've had some good phrases, but I think that was Hillary Clinton's campaign speech. Like better together or something.
I did not know that.
I swear it was something like, we're stronger together or better together.
Hey, I said we're better when we work together.
Yeah, that's not the same.
But
like, I remember.
No,
actually,
I don't want to get political.
No,
But.
not at all. But I remember hearing that. I'm like, wait, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously for you, like when you're dealing in the foster world, like obviously you have to have the right hand talking to the left hand. You have to, like, there are resources within the state of Idaho. This is something that I found really interesting about your story. You didn't come from like I'm an executive director of this nonprofit and I do this and I do this. You had, I can't remember exactly what your profession was. I know you were.
I worked in church. I was a kids pastor. So.
Yeah, I was going to say youth pastor. But it's not like you had directed all of these nonprofits and done all of these things. So literally within a 4-year window of starting Foster and Heart to now, not only have you adopted 5 kids, you're fostering a 6th, but you have a 39-person strong organization, a nonprofit organization that's meeting the needs of umpteen dozens and dozens and hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
But you're also tapping into resources that it's like the health and welfare might have resources to help foster parents and foster organizations. But until somebody stands up and says, okay, you know what? You have that money. You know what? I'll do what you want. Your mission is my mission. You fund me and I will do it. Because it's like, you can throw money at something, but if you don't have organizations that will make right by that money, the money's useless.
Yeah.
Like it still comes back to somebody saying, I will be up in the middle of the night caring for this child.
Yes.
And thanks for a little bit of the financial support, but like, I'm the one on 24 hours a day.
Yes. And fostering is a 24 hours a day job. It's definitely something. But something about being a nonprofit is that I've realized, started this with no money. Like it was a leap of faith. Like, okay, I feel called to this. I feel like this is the direction God's leading me in. But I don't have any money.
Right.
I just adopted 5 children as a single mom. But it's really been cool to see how God has brought every single person along for this ride and this journey to benefit it as a whole. So bringing the right people to do the things, but then also going back to our community is incredible. And I have so many times people say, I've wanted to help, but I didn't know how to give or where to give. And so we just give them opportunities like, hey, we're doing, we had an essentials drive in May and we raised so much clothes, supplies, anything a child would need when they enter into foster care. And that was all the community came around at Walmart. We sat out there all day that people dropped off supplies so that we could fill these duffel bags for kids. So I will just say that, yes, this community is incredible and comes around us and supports. And that's one thing that I love about being a nonprofit is they have the opportunity to give to us.
Okay, to that end, there are people that want to help.
Yeah.
And, maybe not to the level you have, which is just Herculean, but want to help. But what I would like to know, if you could walk me through, once you decide, you're like, okay, because there was a gal who, it's my understanding you were saying that there was a gal you were talking to and you're like, aren't there any resources for this or programs? You're like, no. She said, no, there aren't, but you could do it. And you're like, yeah, maybe I will do it. She's like, well, you should. And you're like, fine, I will.
Yeah.
And it's like, but then boom, we get to 39 people in the organization and like 2 houses and stuff.
Yeah.
There was like a middle ground from when you were like, fine, I will, to like 39 people in a gala and all this stuff. Walk me through the first steps of this. So like you have that meeting with that gal and you go home and you're like, I will do this. And then what?
Yeah. I mean, it was just a flippant statement. Like, I guess, well, why don't you have that? And she was like, you should do it. So I went home and obviously that seed was planted. I've always had a heart to help vulnerable children. So I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. Well, I basically brought this to a friend of mine at my church. Her name's Vieira, and she is a videographer. She's incredible. She does websites. I mean, she's just everything that I'm not. Okay. And
Listen,
so
we
she
all
was
have our
like,
skill sets.
so she was like, let's do it. So her and I, start looking up how to start a nonprofit. Well, she was like, let's just make a video and we're just going to put it out there. We don't know a thing. We laugh about it now that we were that confident that we were going to put this out there to the world and just be like, give us money.
And people be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
make it rain.
Yes. And actually it did at first. We did this thing. We went to our church. They presented at the church. We posted on social media and out the gate, we raised $45,000. And we're like, what? This
Wait,
is gonna
what
work.
was the video?
It was a video just talking about our vision for these homes and just talking about how kids sit in offices waiting to find a home, but we would be this safe place to equip the kids with all their needs and that we would keep the kids while the department finds.
So
I'll have to send you the
and
video.
Vieira, I can't wait.
Yes,
I can't
I'll
wait.
send it to you. And we were like, I want to say like, I'm glad we were dumb.
Yeah.
To think that we could just put this out there because if we'd really thought it through, we're like, why would we do that? I didn't have a bank account set. I mean, it was just like nothing. We just put the video out and got money right away. And we're like, oh, okay, I guess we need to open a bank account.
Right.
I guess we need to establish.
And you
for
need
sure.
an EIN for a
Yeah.
bank account.
Yeah, so that even came after we put the video out.
Oh
Like,
my God. Okay, so you and Vieira are like, we feel convicted. We're going to do this. And she's like, I don't know. I know. Let me get my like, hold my beer. Let me get the camera. Here we go. You guys make a video, you send it out, and you realize there is desire to support causes like this, at least within your church community. You're like, okay, that we're not crazy. Okay, other people like this. That's always good.
Yeah.
Then what?
So we put the video out and it was just things lined up right after that. So then someone in our church, friends of ours, came and were like, we have rental properties. We would like to have you rent this home. And then someone came up and was like, I'm going to pay the first entire year of rent for this home. So we get into the home and we realized we needed to renovate it. We had people, okay, we're going to buy the LVP for the floor.
Sure.
We're going to come in and paint. I mean, it was the most incredible, beautiful thing watching people who had never been in child welfare. I'm like the only person in this group who's ever fostered, who's ever really been in the deep of foster care, but everybody wants to help.
And
so
did you have your nonprofit established?
At this point, by the time we got the house, so we launched, I want to say March of 2021. We became an official nonprofit May of 2021.
And that's when like the video goes out.
No, the video went out in March. Like this is what I wanted to say. Just put it out there and God does the rest. So we get the money, start a bank account. Then we become an official 501c3. And then someone after seeing that video, like in June, was like, hey, we want to give you this house to rent. Someone then comes up and was like, I'll pay for the rent. So we're just like, okay. And honestly, so we get in there and it takes us, so this is June of 2021. We're not even possibly ready to open till September of 2022. I love watching the videos of my faith because I'm like, we're opening September. We're opening December. Like I just thought, like
just another 30 days. Like
we're almost there. But no, it just took us a while. So
just need to paint that one wall.
Yes.
You're whipping cabinets.
Well, and then we
off
get
the
people
walls.
to donate money to build beds because everything we put in the house was brand new. We wanted the kids to walk in and be like, okay, I've never maybe had a bed before, but his bed is for me and I get my own bed. And, we just set it up. So it was just this really honestly a beautiful home. My friend came in, she's an interior designer, actually two of my friends, and designed it, created this whole beautiful. So we just had this idea like a hotel, a sanctuary, somewhere they come and feel safe and valuable and loved. And so then it still took a process because we had to get licensed, we had to work with the state, all that stuff. In the meantime, in the back of my mind, I'm like, all these people think I'm a liar. Like they're going to be like, this girl took our money and is running with it.
You're like, guys, I'm really trying. I promise.
No, and I was just like, and I think that's just my conviction. I was like, I didn't want anybody to think I was lying, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And so, but it's been really cool to see just God bring every person to help us to accelerate this mission and jump on board and be like, okay, I know you have this vision for it, but I love it. I'm going to help and do my part. And so we opened our doors December 12th of 2022. So it took about a year and a half. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you start in March with the video of 21. Yep. Then in May, you get your 501c3. People are supporting you. You get this house in June. and the renovation starts. Like renovations alone are a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But it wasn't just physical stuff like furniture and whatnot and making the house beautiful. It's now I have to go through the bureaucracy of the state.
Yeah, going through the licensing process.
Help me understand that, because this is where you start interacting with the Department of Health and Welfare, correct? Okay.
Well, I'd literally emailed her in faith right after that conversation with that woman who was like, you should do it. And I was like, found out who it is. Actually, my mom helped me. She was like, I'm going to tell you who you. So I reached out to her, talked to her, and kind of got the idea of it. And then waited another year before I reached out again when I was like, okay, I'm understand. It was just a lot to comprehend. Like, oh my gosh, this is a lot to do to get this going and open. And so, yeah. So then now we're working with her. You're writing all the policies, procedures, all that stuff. And then brought in a whole team to do that, to help with that. And so incredible people. I'm not kidding you. I just am blown away every day that the people that have come around to support this dream and this mission.
So it was really, I mean, because the Herculean task of even conceptualizing all the steps and what needs to happen, the application processes, the whole thing. So it sounds like as you were going through this, other people stepped up with their own specialties or their own thing. They're like, look, I can't hang drywall, I can't build bunk beds, but I can grant write, or I can fill out this app, or I can do, like, give me a task that suits my skill sets.
100%. And that's even how we built our entire Foster and Heart team. Like the leaders of the team is like based on their skill set. Like they're incredible people and they all complement each other, but they're all really good at certain things. So we have our own grant writer. We have our own videographer. You know, she runs our website. Like it's all in-house. Like we're not outsourcing a lot of stuff. It's all done right here in our own team. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So you open December of 22.
Yep.
So it's almost 2 years from when you start in March and you broadcast the video. You get fundraising. Then you open December of 22. So first you're like, told you I'm not a snake. Yes. Like I didn't take your money. Like, oh my gosh.
I'm like, and then it was like the weight of the world. Like this actually happened. Okay. Cause it was a roller coaster. It was like, okay, it's not going to happen. Okay. It is happening. You know what I mean? Cause you're just going through the ups and downs of everything. So
it's just
when the doors opened, it was
day,
like all the emotion, like, oh my gosh, we did it.
Right.
And then the waiting game, you know, we're just like, okay, when are the kids going to come through the doors? And that was just such an honor. Every time a kid comes through, I'm just like, we love you. We support you. We're here for you and help you walk this process. So it's been like an honor. It's not just like a job to me. It is a passion and a mission to me to be able to, and an honor to me to be able to do this.
Right. Okay. Okay. So a couple questions then.
Yeah.
So you open in 22.
Yep.
People know you're not a thief. That's a positive thing.
That is a good thing.
You go through the horrific, I was thinking about it just today, the horrific roller coaster of doing something novel or unique or something you've never done, especially something as large as this. It's like, I feel it every day where it's like, this is dumb. And then it's like, I'm like, oh, this is great. And then it's like, this is dumb. Like and now it's just, I laugh at myself. Yeah. I'm like, what's interesting too is I don't even know where those thoughts come from. They just come and they wash over me. It's like getting punched in the face by an invisible hand. It's like, whatever, there it went. Like, okay. And like, it's not going to hurt in a minute. It'll be fine. Like, I'm just going to keep going. It's like, it doesn't matter. You just charge on through. So December 22 happens. And again, you're not living at this house, right?
No. And that's, I can explain that right now. So our homes are run, we have a staff supervisor, we have direct care staff. So 24/7 every day, all week long, we have people on shift. And someone is awake. So the night shift is awake, ready. Like we might get a call at 1 o'clock in the morning, sibling group of 4 coming in. They're ready for them to come in.
They're not like, what?
Yeah, nope, they're awake. So even if, you know, kids going through trauma, like they don't just go to bed.
Right.
You have to comfort them. You have to make them feel safe. So those first couple nights, usually they'll get used to the house maybe after a week, but you really have to be there to make them feel safe and comfortable.
Like, hey, come here.
And hear them out. They're going to miss their moms. They're going to miss their dads. They're going to miss. So we're just here to be like, we're here for you. We love you. We're here to support you. And sometimes we don't have the answers, but we do the best we can. And, just be a vessel for Jesus. That's what I think, the hands and feet of Jesus, because it truly is this. I mean, they think about, if I have children, my kids are removed and it makes me want to cry thinking, put in a car with a stranger, now driven by that stranger to another stranger's house and dropped off there and left. I mean, like that's so scary and so traumatic for a child.
Right.
And so like, I just think of that always when they walk in our doors, we want to make them feel loved and safe, get on their level and help, like, you haven't eaten all day. I don't care if it's midnight. I'm making you a big dinner right now. So that's what we just have the honor, like I said, of doing that and being there for kids and walking the process with the department and just being there to help support them in this.
You make it very difficult to stay on track because everything you say, I have a hard time recovering from it. Okay. So I actually have, a friend of mine from a men's group back, before I moved here, Frank, had gone through a very traumatic childhood and was given up, to an orphanage at one point, and he didn't know what was going on. His mom struggled with a lot of things, and she had dropped him off at like a relative's house and then like a friend's house. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you're going to summer camp. And this person like came and took him away to like this place that he thought was like summer camp. But in reality, he finds out later on that he was like given up for adoption and he was like living in an orphanage. And, he was getting regular meals and he was like safe, so he appreciated that aspect of the experience. But there was also this woman that he said, he coined it. He was like, there was this very fat woman who like I could go and sit with and she wouldn't, give me a hard time. She wouldn't ask me questions. She'd just hold me. And he was like, I had a series of these fat women. I'm like, what is with fat women? Like he kept saying it, but apparently there was like a couple women that really cared for him that were these larger women that as a little boy, he would go up and like hug and they would just rock him in his chair, in their chair. And then, like after an hour, they're like, okay, bud, you got to go back to bed. He's like, okay. And he would just feel comforted by them. And it like just understanding that what you're saying, which is, look, when somebody comes in, they're just in like a pit of chaos and their whole world is falling down. And just having somebody who's like, listen, sit on down here at the counter.
Yeah.
I'm going to get cooking some chicken. And it's going to be great. Do you like chicken? I love chicken. Like we're going to eat chicken tonight.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's 1 a.m, no sweat.
Yep.
You like rice with chicken? A chicken bowl. We're making a chicken teriyaki bowl, right? That's, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So December comes, you have all these staff, right?
At this time, we didn't have that many, but we had one home open. So it was probably half, I guess.
So you have a home open.
Yeah.
And then you just like hang the shingle out. You're like, we
did the ribbon cutting.
Oh my gosh,
we did a whole video.
And you're like, listen, we are open for business. And then how do you get your first group of kids?
So that was interesting because we're trying to figure out how to navigate that. The department didn't know how to navigate it. So the first couple of weeks, we were just kind of like, what's happening? We don't know. They didn't know. But then once we got in that rhythm, basically, wow. Can you read? Why did I do that?
What? You just said basically. Are you?
No,
all right?
I lisped it. I don't know. That was really good.
I lisped it.
I don't know why that happened.
Listen, you're gonna be just fine. We're gonna be all right. Go.
You're gonna cut that out. Okay. So basically,
you're a human. People need to see your humanity. Just keep going.
Okay. So basically, on their end, they end up with a sibling group. I don't know the ins and outs of exactly how that happens, but a kid is deemed unsafe for whatever reason. And then they'll call us and be like, hey, we've got a sibling group. Do you have open beds? And so then that's where it goes from there. So at the time when we were first home, we were like, yes, we have open beds. And so then they came. And originally I thought we would just be open. We'd take the kids for like 14 days, 2 weeks, give the department some time. And then you realize it kind of ended up being longer because it was harder to find those general homes that would take
a sibling group.
Right,
like
and
one
keep them together.
person, fine.
Yeah.
But if you have like a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and an 11-year-old, and you want to keep them together, that's a wide spread of people.
And sometimes we get like, we've had sibling groups of like a 17-year-old and a 2-year-old. Everyone will be, I'll take the 2-year-old, but not the 17-year-old, but we're like, no. So we get the opportunity of kind of like meeting them, getting to know their needs, their wants, their likes, and then being able to help the department find that home, kind of like break maybe that stereotype of what a teenager, don't be scared of the teens. They're awesome. And, like figure out what this 2-year-old likes and then help place them in that right home so that they don't have to move again is the whole goal of what we do.
I don't know about, like I was talking to somebody about, I think it was Director Adams. When you're selecting, when you're signing up to be a foster parent, you can select age ranges, genders, things like this. You're like, look, I'm comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with that. And instantaneously, as we were talking, I'm like, oh, yeah, I would never foster like a 16-year-old girl like that. I would like, I can't, this woman is not mine. And like, it would just there's got to be a way to facilitate more And maybe that's a ridiculous hesitation I have. I
Well,
don't know.
I feel like there is wisdom. Like, I don't do teen boys. I'm a single mom.
Okay.
I have my limits, and that is teen boys. I just feel like, but there are women out there, single moms that do teen boys, but I don't. I will foster teen girls. So you're allowed, you can have those parameters. Like when I first signed up, I said I wanted a 5 to 12-year-old, and I ended up with, 5 under 4 years old. So you have to say yes to go outside of those parameters that you've already established. Like I could say yes to a teen, boy, but I wouldn't because I have a teen girl. So yeah, you can have those things. And a lot of people do. So, but I just would like to break the stereotype of teenagers in general, because a lot of people are scared of fostering teens. They're like, what about my kids? What will happen to my children? Think she hangs the world. I mean, she's just so amazing. They love her. We went on vacation. She didn't go with us. And the first thing, they're all the way home. They're like, who are you going to hug first? And they're all talking about the dog or her. And like all of them were like, we're hugging her first. And so it was just really cute to see how much they miss her and how much she's positively impacted their life. My 5-year-old doesn't go to anybody but her. She loves her. So it's just really cool to see that impact that she's making. So for me, I think it's more about breaking that stereotype of don't be afraid of the teens. They need homes too, and they need loving people, and they're awesome. I have a buddy now I get to talk to. Before I had, I'm 5 under 9. So now I have a little buddy sometimes we go play or go shopping together or something. So they're awesome.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it's a tricky situation all the way around for sure. Like I love teens too. They're, obviously SAT tutor for almost 20 years. It's like, you got to like teens if you're going to be tutoring SAT and ACT stuff for college. Like, and amazingly, like, I was back in California recently and did a podcast for my old show to help the school board down there because there are 5 people on the school board in the area I moved from. Oh, there's only one even remotely conservative guy, this guy, Jesse, who's really trying to like hit the brakes with the insanity. And like, man, he really put himself on the line. Like he put his neck out there, and he's an incredible person. He's
That's
like
awesome.
a Christian conservative dude who's like, hey, let's make school boring and about like reading scores. Like, let's get away from all of this, insanity. Right. And there's another gal who has 5 kids in the district, and she's like this just diehard. She's like, this is not working. Like, this is not working for our state. It's not, the policies we have in place are not good for families, are not good for kids. So she's running, but going back there and, experiencing that, it really reminds me of the life I used to have with the teens, where it's like, this was so great. Like, I loved these people. And I posted a clip from that. Interview, and a bunch of my students reached out. It's like, these are people that I knew when they were 16 and 17, and now they've graduated from college, and they're like, yo, Matt, what's up? I'm like, Kevin? Like,
I love
Tristan, what are you doing, man? He's like, I'm working for VW in DC. I'm like, you're done with college? He's like, oh yeah. But like,
they grow
they're
so
great.
fast. We don't though, right? We're still the same. They just grow, right?
Yeah, I'm 42, but I feel like I'm 18. Like and I moisturize, so it keeps my skin youthful.
You look very young.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm older than you though.
I'm going gray.
Yeah.
Look at this. That's gray hair. I won't pull it up too much. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's why I have red roots right now, because I tried to cover my gray. And
listen to me. Stop trying to hide your face. We're on camera. Pop the bill up. You don't have to show your hair. Just the people need to see your face. Yeah, right. So you start, the bottom line is they start filtering in groups to you guys.
Yeah,
and
siblings.
The system is working, right? The system you have in place with your food procurement, with your resource procurement, with the volunteers and staff that you have, it's working.
Yeah.
What point did you get to when you're like, okay, this is working and it's actually working better than like anything else? We have to open another one.
It was probably within the first couple months, because once we were full, we were like, then we started having to say no to siblings. And then we realized, okay, this is a need that we are meeting. And, the kids need it longer than the 2 weeks that we had planned. And so we were just like, okay, let's go ahead and start looking at another one than just talking to people. And we decided, there's regions. So region 4 is like Boise, Meridian, and then region 3 is Caldwell, Napa. So we're like, okay, let's try to break these 2 regions up. So we'll put a home in region 3 to meet the needs for those sibling groups and individual children. We take individual kids too, but for those sibling groups in region 3, and then the sibling groups in region 4. So we pretty much quickly started working on it. We did hit some hiccups with just Nampa Caldwell, some of their rules out there. And so it just took us a little longer. Again, you think like we wanted to open October 1st. So we opened one December 2022. Our goal was to open October 1st of 2023. For our second one, it didn't happen until January of 24. So there's just, you know, the roller coaster of we're like ready, the home's ready to go, but just little things within like the state, what do you call them?
Like the bureaucracy, they're like
they're like, okay, we need you to do this. We need you to do this. Not necessarily with health and welfare. They were ready to go with us. It was more like the rules of Caldwell, Nampa.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have county, you have city, you have state, you have all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
What has your experience with health and welfare been?
I mean, I think we have a great relationship with them. I've loved it. Like I said, we just met with Director Adams. We're like, okay, is there anything else you could see us doing? We really just have the heart to lighten that load for them. And so it's been great. Every person I've worked with has been incredible. And honestly, I know health and welfare gets a bad rap, you know, because just across the states, people are like, health and welfare is bad, you know, don't remove kids. But the reality is there are children that are in terrible situations and they need to be, you know, removed from their homes. And the goal is that the parents get the help they need so that the kids can go back. That's always the goal, is to reunify those kids with their parents. Right. But there are kids. I mean, I can't tell you specific stories, but I'm just saying I've had kids walk in my doors where you're like, how did you live through that? Like, how did that go undetected for that long? And those children should have been in foster care. Now, I've also had situations where I've gotten children where you're like, okay, I think these, you know, they need to move along and go home. And the department works really actively and to make sure that those kids are getting home as soon as possible. Right. So I feel like, you know, there's frustrations with everything. We're all humans. So there might be a little situation where I'm like, oh, that didn't work out how I see it should have happened. But I don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes. So for the most part, but, you know, 99% of the time, every interaction I've had has been wonderful.
Gosh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, Director Adams really had really clear. He's like, we need to make this easier for parents and we need to make it easier for foster families. We need to make it, and of course have standards, right? Yeah. It is unfortunate because nobody likes the idea of children being separated from parents, right? Mm-hmm. Like in the abstract, it's like, no, that's not a good thing. But when faced with real specific situations, you're like, look at this picture. Yeah. Should this child be here? Right? Like that's probably not a good idea. Mm-hmm. Right. And you know, people are struggling. One thing that Director Adams said that I thought was a really good point is like, listen, adult mental health and adult struggles are literally at the heart of like the need for foster care. It's like, so these aren't really separate issues. Like, yeah, we handle them separately, essentially, where it's like, yeah, we have these programs or like financial assistance or whatever it might be, right? But like that's what drives the need for foster care, because you have adults who have children and then they, you know, things are imploding for them and it's a really upsetting thing. But it's like it's all right, it's all intertwined. Like there's no point where you could just flush out one or flush out the other. And if you really want to work on, if you really want to, like if we wanted to eliminate all the need for foster care immediately, to do that, we would just snap our fingers and make sure that every family is set. Yeah. Like, cause it's like, it starts at the family. Like that's the issue, you know, and foster is distinct obviously from adoption. Cause it's like, look, reunification is the goal in a lot of these cases. Right. But working with Officer Gomez, who is up in, Idaho City, he talks about some of the cases that he's worked in the past, and even some recently. He's like, we're looking for a family of 7 right now that has 5 kids. They're living out of a car. Like we don't know where they are. They're like camping and just, you know, these different things. It's like, wow, that's really rough. Yeah. And there's, you know, kids come from like I've heard the word said so many times, deplorable living conditions. That's another Hillary Clinton. Is it really? Deplorables. The bucket of deplorables. I don't follow her. So I don't follow her. I don't know. That was the whole thing that like lost her, or at least part of what lost her the election, that she said that anybody voting for Trump was a deplorable. And it's like, you can't say that. Like that's not, no. And listen, don't talk politics. I don't know that. I just know they've been living in horrible situations. Right. You hear like where they've come from and they tell you stories. It's not like the kids don't share their life before. We get to hear
you know, we hear a lot. I mean, there's been times where I'm, you know, I always tell when you brush a little girl's hair, that's kind of like the moment, or you braid her hair, that's when they start to open up and talk and they feel safe. They let their guard down. And I've just heard horrendous stories from kids and it breaks your heart. That's when I always say, I will never get used to this. Never. I will never have a hard heart to the child's story because they're just, no child should ever have to go through those things. So, but I do think on the flip side, there are situations where sometimes like, okay, they just need a little help. Let's help them. Let's get their kids back. Or maybe we can help keep the kids in the home and get them the help they need. But then there's those cases where kids really should be removed. And yeah. I mean, when I was 16, I always share this story, but my heart for foster care came, I was not a good teenager. I was a troubled teenager. All my friends were, and I was 16
Wait,
years
this
old.
is you, like
this
you,
is my
you.
personal,
Okay.
yeah. I was in a, you know, an alternative high school. I was just not, I was never academically, I was trying to figure out myself.
Yeah, sure.
And I had a friend who had 2 kids and they were 1 and 2 years old and just deplorable. But I was 16. I didn't know. I watched her. She was addicted to drugs. I watched the living conditions. She would lock these 2 little babies in a bedroom. And in this bedroom, in the dark, would be like just nasty mattresses that they would crawl all over, dirty diapers, filthy. And she was like addicted to drugs. But I was 16. I didn't know how do I report this? So I would take the kids, my friend and I would take them to our house, bathe them, you know, take them out to do things in the community. Well, one day we came to her house and she came out and was crying and she was like, they took my kids. And I just remember thinking, thank God. Thank God they're safe. And I knew that in order for her to get better, she had to hit that rock bottom. And her kids being removed was a rock bottom, right? Like you have a choice. You have to build up, choose to dig out of this, or just wallow in that and let somebody else raise your children. And so, you know, she had that choice to be able to be like, I'm going to work really hard. And I found out they were out living in this farm and this person had all these animals and they were like happy. And I just remember thinking, I want to be on the other side of foster care one day because I saw where they came from. And you know, it wasn't a story. It wasn't just written on paper. I saw it with my own eyes. It was terrible. And they were 1 and 2. So I was like, I want to be able to help kids like them. I mean, now they're in their, you know, gosh, let's see. That's a long time ago. So we won't
They're adults.
20s something. I don't know.
Did they get reunified with a mom?
No. Yeah.
And did they live happy lives?
I never, you know, after that, I never heard anything. So, yeah.
Well, prayer for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're doing good, but
yeah,
it's been many, many years. But I just remember that was my first interaction with foster care. And I just thought, I want to be a part of that side. Yeah. So I remember my friend, I just actually talked to her recently, the first friend that would help me. We'd take them to our houses and go she said, do you remember we gave them their first bath? She said the water turned black and that's how long they hadn't had a bath for. And I was like, wow. It's just like, so it's been in me from a very young age to help and want to be a part of like, hopefully the solution to help vulnerable children.
I can't track my thoughts around you. If you had to give yourself advice now, right? So you're like, hey, I can help one kid. I can do this. I think I'm thinking of foster caring.
Yeah.
What advice would you give yourself now knowing what you know?
I would say don't listen to the naysayers because there's a lot of people who are going to say, oh, why would you do that? People they think it's someone else's thing to do. But if you're close with them, I remember people telling me, oh, you shouldn't do that. You're single. Those kids need dads. Like those type of things. Like, oh, you really shouldn't do that. And I'm like, no, somebody has to. And so anyways, I hear people say all the time, like good intended people will say, oh, you shouldn't do that. What about your children in your home? How's that going to affect your kids? I would say do it. Just take a step out. And just believe that God can use you to make an impact on someone's life. And I just would encourage you to not wait. There is a child right now in our community, a sibling group, somebody out there that needs you to open their doors to them and be their safe place. So go for it.
Just do it, huh?
Yep. Just do it. Now I'm quoting, what's his name? Michael Jordan?
No,
Nike.
We are terrible.
Just do it.
I don't think I know any Michael Jordan quotes. Like, I think that my buddy in college had that poster of like all of the ways Jordan had failed. He's like, I've missed the game-winning shot 2,000 times. And
There you go.
and he's like, I have failed so I can win. Right?
That's a good.
Yeah. But he didn't write that. It was some dude making a poster who just put his stupid face on it. Michael Jordan.
Hey, but sometimes we have to fail to build ourselves out so that we can win. So that's a good quote. Yes.
No. We don't have to fail. We will fail. That's inherent in the process. Yes. We will fail. The only question is, will we keep coming back?
You do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like that's, I remember reading this article about, oh my God. I remember reading this article about not Pinewood Derby, but boxcar racing, right? Where they like make the little like just like so like you go down a hill and you make this little car with your kid and like you ride it. And it was like this whole thing about this dad talking about how they got better and better and better at racing. It's like racing like a little soapbox car. Like, what do you mean? Right. And they got better at, the creating it. They were using graphite lubricant on the things and like all these things. And in the article, guys talking about like, it was really important because my son learned how to win and lose. And this was me reading it at like 25. And I was thinking about that today. It's like, I didn't get it at 25 because I'm like, like, what are you learning? Like, what do you mean learn how to lose? And it's like, life is just a horrendous series of L's. Yeah. And like you have to learn how to take the L's over and over and over. And that's learning how to lose. That like you take the L, you're like, I lost today hard. And that does not dissuade me from showing up again tomorrow. And it's like, just like life is a losing game and we all lose in the end. Yeah. But man, it's really important. Like you got to learn how to just keep coming forward. Like you're talking about, like you thought it would be a couple months and it's like a year and a half later. You're like, I did it. I'm not a liar.
Yes. I was like so happy. I'm like, I can finally say it's done. We've opened our doors. So the rest is up to everybody else. Whatever happens. I was like, however this plays out, but we did our part and we're ready.
Bless it.
Yeah.
Listen. Thank you for coming in today. We got the right day. We got the right time. It was great. I would love to keep the conversation going. I want to hear more from people who have done foster care. I want to hear more from people who've been through the foster care systems. I would really like to keep this going with you. Yeah. So let's organize if you're into it.
Yes, I'd love to.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for coming in today.
Yes, thank you for having me.